Crazy game. 84th minute this one goes to. Springboks get it done 29 points to 26. 2 tries apiece. Takes a while, but we get a result. If you got high blood pressure, probably not the best game to be watching. I didn't manage to see it live, but I did watch a full replay, and fortunately, I had managed to avoid any news about the result, so I was totally not sure what was going to happen. I was even writing little notes in my little notebook here about how was Rassie going to deal with the media pressure, having lost 2 games in a row, but the Springboks have taken it out. For France, it was Trosty Girardo and Bastero. For South Africa, it was Nkosi and Imbonambi. Yeah, both teams had their kind of periods of dominance. First half, I mean, France had a lot more of the ball, and they scored the only try the first half. Pollard was kicking well from the tee. France started it off though with a couple of penalties, made it 6-0. And South Africa hit back with 3 on the trot to make put themselves in the lead. 9 points to 6. Lopez scored a drop goal, evened it up, and then Girardo got his try. Kind of on 36 minutes, breaking away from a maul. A pretty good little piece of play. And yeah, France went into the sheds with a 16 point to 9 lead. So looking solid, as I said, a bit more of the ball, and the box not quite firing like I think some of us thought they might. With guys like Faf de Klerk, Willie Leroux, Franco Mostert, some of these guys back, it looked like the box would really up their game, at least put in an extra gear, but it didn't quite seem to be the case. And the French really came out firing. Lots of ball early. And yeah, man, Teddy Thomas on the counter at one point looked really dangerous. He should have passed. He cut the box defense to bits at one point, and he had kind of men either side of him. Decided to go himself. I guess you figure, like, I've beaten just like 5 guys. What's the 6th one? But was one too many. So that was a bit of poor decision making that I guess the French guys will regret at the end of the day. You never know how it's going to go at the time, but it proved to be pretty costly. Second half, Bastero gets his try, and South Africa in all kinds of trouble. It's a big up and under. It looks like Lopez is going to go for another drop goal. It's a big up and under, and it was a funny one because there's a South African try straight after, but Nkosi doesn't handle the high ball that well, and then Bastero ends up with the ball, and Peter Steph du Toit is unable to kind of bring him down, although that's pretty hard because he's a big guy and not far from out from the line. And yeah, France get that score. It takes the points to 23-9, and it's looking like all kinds of trouble for South Africa. But then immediately, Nkosi gets his try, and it's kind of the same guys involved. Peter Steph du Toit puts a tackle on the French guy who took the ball, and then the ball comes loose, and Nkosi gets the try. So the 2 guys who were kind of semi at fault for that Bastero try are 2 key guys to get the try back for South Africa. So it's kind of just like France pull ahead, and then as you were. But at that point, South Africa are still behind. Sarang gets another penalty, but he misses it, that one. And then Vermeulen gets a good turnover on the ground. And, I'm going to say Foley. Been watching too much rugby today. Pollard kicks the penalty, 23-19. Kicks another one, 23-22. It's another 1-point game. And then Colby almost goes in for a try. It's that tactic that they, kick over, and it's almost out, so Vermeulen has to take it right by the sideline. They try to tackle him over, manages to keep the ball in play, ball changes a few hands. Colby ends up with the ball, I think it was from Leroux. Shows some slick feet that we've seen from him a couple of times this year. Just loses the ball forward as he's going over for the try. I thought they might have looked at it a little bit longer just to check if it had actually been knocked forward by Colby or if it had been knocked kind of out of his hands by the French guy, but they said, no, it's knocked on. So, fair call. French was still ahead. Then, in 80th minute, with advantage, this is having gone, I mean, Francois Lowe got a really key turnover, kind of in their own 22. Box go length of the field, phase out to phase penalties. Yankees' kick. Man, when they had a penalty, he kicked it. It didn't find touch, but it kind of went over the line as the French guy took it there. Perhaps he thought time was up, but they ruled there was just enough time to take the line out, which is bloody lucky at the end because, yeah, South Africa go through some phases. Dianti Gets another try, but it's ruled out for a forward pass from LaRue. And then finally, at the 84th minute, Mbonambi gets the try, which puts South Africa ahead right at the death, and that's game over. Pollard kicks the conversion just to add a little salt to the wound. I'm really happy for Mbonambi. He gets a fair bit of stick. I actually quite like him. Obviously, he's not Malcolm Marx, but I don't think he's a rubbish player. I think he's pretty solid. So I'm glad for him because he had 2 really high-pressure line-out throws after South Africa had gone all that way up the field. Like, you won't get a higher pressure line-out throw than those. He ended up having to do 2, and they were both kind of right on the money. And Mostert was the guy who took them, so I guess he's definitely a welcome addition. I mean, you look at the stats of this one, South Africa's line-out was at 100% compared to last week. So whatever they did, whether it's Mostert, whether it's just more practice, whether it was just a bit of a freak kind of result last week, but much improved this week. And the French lineup was at 86, so always good to win your own ball. Puts you in a much position to win the game, and the small try that Mbonambi managed to peel off from at the end is kind of testament to winning your own ball at line-out time. So yeah, I mean, speaking of stats, there were pretty high tackle stats for both teams. France 91, South Africa 82. So on that, you'd think the French maybe should have won, but I mean, over the course of the game, there's plenty of things that happen that can go kind of beyond just that one stat. Possession and territory ended up being slightly in France's favour, but not as much as the first half, so South Africa kind of definitely evened things up a bit more in that second half. South Africa, I think, will be concerned a bit about some of the errors that they made. I mean, there were quite a few. One where they were kicking off, they're not kicking off, it was a receipt from I think it was a 22 dropout. South Africa just didn't know who was going to catch it, and then they ended up giving away an offside penalty, which I'm pretty sure got kicked. Faf de Klerk had a penalty given away for an attempted charge down on Lopez, and he bumped into him, which incidentally in the Wales Australia game, that same thing happened, but it wasn't given as a penalty. But this one was. They had a tap and go where they passed it to kind of nobody. The French had a scrum at one point where I think it was it Diante's wing? There was just nobody there, and the French just kicked it down the field, and LaRue had to kind of scramble across and just kick it out. So there's definitely a few work-ons, and I was surprised how well the French kind of came out. You know, it's their first game, and they didn't look all that rusty. Like, I mean, for a team that's just kind of gotten together, to still have a line-out success rate of 86 is still pretty solid. Kicking was good for the most part, and some pretty smart plays. Lopez really looked like he was in control of the game when he was on, so he's a pretty cool customer, and that was showing in this game. But I mean, some of the South African guys' work rates are just crazy. Peter Steph du Toit, I think he made 18 tackles. The guy's just got the heart of a lion. He's just absolutely everywhere. Colby looked pretty fleet-footed when he came on, like I said. Someone in the comments said it'd be great to see him up against Bastero. We didn't get to see that, but if Bastero had had the ball and Colby had had the unenviable job of trying to stop him, that would have been an interesting one. So yeah, it's a win for South Africa. It was a heart kind of rate increasing one. Pretty chuffed to see that result. It was yeah, a result that really could have gone either way. And after a kind of narrow loss last week, it's good for the South African guys to get a win. For France, they'll be pretty gutted. Yeah, they were so close, and they really had chances to win it as well. As I said, missed penalty, could have put a bit extra pressure on. If they had handled that Yankees kick not for touch a bit better, I'm not sure if the stadium clock was not the same as the referee's clock, but if they'd handled that a little bit better, they could have just taken an extra 5 seconds and killed the game off. But not to be. Hindsight's 2020, so this is what happened, and this is the way it's going to stay. Still a bit sad I didn't get to see Ambrose Papier on. He warms the bench for another 80 and doesn't, or 84 and doesn't get on. But that's how important Faf de Klerk is to the team, I suppose. The South African jerseys seem to be losing their numbers from the back. That was a bit weird, and one of them seemed to have a bit of a tear in it. So that's that was a bit odd. They'll have to sort that out if they can wear that jersey again. Kudos also to Andre Pollard. I mean, good night with the boot. But also there was one point where he had a hand fully around his neck and he was getting choked and still managed to get a pass away. So that is a classy customer. Also, I had the South African feed on the commentary. Does Matthews Pearce, I think it was him, he was the commentator, does he speak French? He certainly pronounces the French names very well. Maybe he just does his commentary job like a professional should, because some guys have less than ideal pronunciation. I'm not that great with the French names myself, but Matthew, either he speaks French or he's had some training, because to my ear, which doesn't speak French, he certainly sounds like he's doing a good job. What did you guys think of the game? Like I said, France had their chances. Thomas, if he'd passed it, perhaps would have put them out a bit further. Missed kicks. The South Africa, if they'd cleaned up some of those errors, which still kind of plagued their game. Lineout was improved, but a few kind of positioning, decision-making things, not quite there. But as I said, Mbonambi, great for him to get that final try. What did you guys think of the game? Key players, key moments, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.